I think my biggest takeaway in my growth in political leadership was the policy analysis. Although I already knew how to find several of the policies, it just never occurred to me how important it is to just know that these policies exist and where these policies come from. So I always knew where LAUSD, I always knew LAUSD had bulletins. They had reference guides and bulletins, and I always knew where to find them. But to discover that there's a direct connection to the origin of that policy via like state mandates, and then the implementations of these state mandates to the schools was really interesting. I also find it really interesting that a lot of these like mandates, not all, but a lot of them, especially the one that I was reviewing, didn't have a deadline of implementation. For example, the policy that I reviewed, which is the reclassification of students in special education, um, although it's happening in LAUSD, I'm pretty sure that there are other districts that maybe haven't heard of this policy and haven't applied it to their own school district and aren't implementing the reclassification of this particular demographic population. In terms of how others have helped me grow in my political leadership, um, I was really just standing on the shoulders of my fellow leaders at the school site, to be more specific. I was learning from my higher up about where policies can be found and urged to read the policies to learn more about how these policies work. And I think that was a really important growth step for me. Granted, these leaders could have just informed me, could have just told me what to do, how these policies work, and how to implement these policies. But instead, they urged me to read the policy on my own, to go through the 10, 15 pages, and to get a really good understanding of the policy, and then go back and discuss the policy with the respected leaders. And I feel that being urged to read the policy instead of being told what the policy was um, is a lot more enlightening and helpful than just going through the rumdrum of following what someone else's interpretation of the policy is, because um, the interpretation of the policy can be different for each person. Although one leader may think the policy says this, another leader may think the policy says that. And, just to be honest, there may be some leaders who haven't read the policies or have a hard time reading and understanding the policy. And fortunately for me, I don't have that difficulty. I could read through a policy and regardless of how boring it is, and understand what the policy is attempting to say. So connected to the previous question, I think my next step for next semester is just continue to do what I'm doing, which is independently reading policies and following the guidelines of those policies to develop my own interpretation of what the policy says. Because I think, in many ways, that's what a leader is. A leader doesn't wait for someone to tell them what a policy says. A leader doesn't wait for someone to go through the steps of a policy. A leader has that ability to find the policy, read the policy, understand the policy, and then follow through on that policy either by through oneself or teaching others on how that policy works. And I think that's essentially our jobs as leaders. It's being able to read through these complicated text in the forms of policies, bulletin, reference guides, and whatnot, and applying them within our own school without being prompted from others to do so. Really, I just recorded.